If you have an EBT card, if you're on food stamps, if you depend on SNAP benefits to feed yourself or your family, you need to listen closely to this right now. This isn't just another update. This isn't a minor policy adjustment. This is going to be the year of change when it comes to SNAP benefits, unlike anything we've ever seen before with this program since its creation. And it starts today, right now, January 1st, 2026. We're talking about changes that are going to impact about 20 million people across the country. Let that number sink in for a moment. 20 million people. That's nearly half of all SNAP beneficiaries nationwide. That's not a small group. That's millions of families, millions of individuals, millions of seniors, millions of people with disabilities who rely on this program to survive. And if you're in one of 5 specific states, these changes aren't coming soon. They're not rolling out next month. These changes are already happening right now as of January 1st, 2026, effective immediately. Now, I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to create panic or make this seem worse than it is. But I'm also not going to sugarcoat it or pretend this isn't a big deal. I'm here to give you the facts about what's going on because this is major and you need to be prepared. You need to know what's changing before you go to the grocery store and get blindsided at the checkout counter. You need to understand what items might be restricted. You need to know your rights and what to do if something gets denied that you think should be allowed. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what's changing with SNAP benefits, which states are affected right now and which are coming soon, what specific items are being restricted, why this is going to be chaotic and confusing for everyone involved, and most importantly, what you need to do about it to protect yourself and avoid problems. Hey everyone, it's Tony from Retirees Benefits. Happy New Year, by the way. I hope you had a good holiday season and you're doing well right now. I hope 2026 is treating you okay so far. If you're new here, welcome to what I consider the most important benefits channel on YouTube for people who actually depend on these programs. I've been helping people navigate government assistance programs for years, breaking down complex policy changes into plain English, explaining what these bureaucratic decisions actually mean for your daily life. And I want you to know something personal. I've personally relied on food stamps myself. I'm not some outsider looking in. I'm not someone who's never struggled financially or who doesn't understand what it's like to depend on SNAP benefits. I know what it's like to carefully plan every grocery trip, to calculate exactly what you can afford, to stretch benefits through the entire month, to worry about whether you're going to have enough to feed your family. That's why I started this channel, to keep you informed about changes like this before they catch you off guard, before you're standing at a checkout counter confused about why items are being denied. If this information helps you today, if it gives you clarity about what's happening or helps you avoid problems at the store, please hit that subscribe button and share this video. There are millions of people who need to know about this. There are people in your life, your friends, your family members, your neighbors, who might not see this information anywhere else. Share it with them. It could save them from a really frustrating experience. So, here's what we're covering today. I'm going to break down exactly what's changing with SNAP benefits starting right now in January 2026. I'll tell you which 5 states are implementing these restrictions today and which 13 additional states will be rolling them out over the coming months. I'll explain what specific items are being restricted, what the rules say, and more importantly, what they don't say. I'll tell you why this is going to be chaotic and confusing, why there are going to be problems at checkout counters across the country, and most importantly, I'll give you concrete action steps for what you need to know before your next grocery trip. I've also got information from official sources that I'm going to reference so you can verify everything I'm telling you. This isn't speculation. This isn't rumor. This is based on actual policy changes that have been approved and are now being implemented. Okay, so here's what's happening. Last year in 2025, 18 states applied for and were granted waivers from the federal government to restrict what you can buy with your EBT card. These are official state waivers that allow them to create additional restrictions beyond the standard SNAP rules. Specifically, these waivers allow states to ban the purchase of candy, sugary drinks, dessert foods, and other similar items that are considered to have minimal nutritional value. Now, the federal SNAP program already has some restrictions. You can't buy alcohol, tobacco, hot prepared foods, or non-food items. But these new state-level restrictions go much further. They're targeting specific categories of food and drinks that states argue don't contribute to nutritional health. And guess what? It goes into effect right now today for 5 states. Then, over the coming weeks and months, it's going to be implemented for all 18 states. Most of these states will roll out these restrictions within the first 4 to 6 months of 2026. So by June, at the latest, all 18 states will have these restrictions in place. Now, here's something that's going to blow your mind. They're projecting that upwards of 120,000 products are likely going to be banned because of these new rules. Yes, you heard that right. 120,000 products. That's not 120 products or 1,200 products. That's 120,000 individual products that are currently EBT eligible, but will now be restricted in these 18 states. That's a massive change to what you can purchase with your food stamps. That's entire aisles of the grocery store potentially being off limits. And here's the thing that makes this even more complicated, even more confusing for people trying to figure out what they can and can't buy. All 18 states are doing something different. It's not consistent across the board. There's no uniform federal standard that all 18 states are following. Some states are just banning sugary drinks and beverages. Some are just banning sugary foods and candies. And some are banning both. Some states have stricter definitions of what constitutes a sugary drink or dessert food. Some have looser definitions. There's no consistency, which is making it really difficult for beneficiaries to understand what's allowed and what's not. If you live near a state border and you shop in different states, the rules might be completely different depending on which state you're in. If you move from one of these 18 states to another, you might find that items that were banned in your old state are allowed in your new state or vice versa. It's a mess. So let me tell you which 5 states are implementing these restrictions right now as of January 1st, 2026. As of today, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, West Virginia. If you are in one of those 5 states, I'm going to say it again so it's crystal clear because this is critical information. Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia. You need to be very aware when you go shopping because these restrictions are active right now. Not next week, not next month. Right now. If you're going to the grocery store today or tomorrow, these rules are already in effect. The remaining 13 states will be implementing these rules over the next few months on different timelines. So if you're not in one of these 5 states, but your state received a waiver in 2025, don't think you're out of the woods. Don't think this doesn't apply to you. Your restrictions are coming. They're just not here yet. You have a little more time to prepare, but these changes are definitely coming to your state sometime between now and June. Now, here's where this gets really messy and honestly kind of frustrating from a practical standpoint. There are no real clear rules around what constitutes a sugary drink or sugary food. The waivers use vague language like items with minimal nutritional value or dessert foods or sugar-sweetened beverages. But what does that actually mean when you're standing in the grocery store trying to decide what to put in your cart? Let me give you some examples of why this is so confusing and why people are going to have problems figuring this out. Drinks are probably a little easier to figure out, at least in theory. Basically, any carbonated beverage or any pre-packaged drink that has added sugar in it is going to be banned in most of these states. Sodas, obviously, energy drinks, sweetened teas, the kind that come in bottles with lots of sugar, sports drinks that have sugar added, things like that are pretty clearly on the banned list. But even with drinks, there are gray areas. What about fruit juice that has natural sugar but no added sugar? Is that banned? What about flavored water that has a small amount of sugar? What about coffee drinks that are sweetened? Where's the line? Nobody really knows for sure. But foods, that's where it gets really gray and confusing. Where do you draw the line between a regular food item and a dessert food? Think about cereal for a moment. Have you ever looked at the nutrition label on cereal, especially kids' cereal? It's loaded with sugar, tons of sugar. Some cereals have more sugar per serving than a candy bar, but cereal is still allowed under these restrictions. It's considered a breakfast food, a staple item. Why would that be allowed when it's full of sugar? What makes cereal different from cookies or candy in terms of sugar content? Nothing really, except that we culturally think of cereal as a meal and cookies as a dessert. What about instant oatmeal packets? Those are loaded with sugar too, especially the flavored varieties. Probably why they taste so good, right? But those are still allowed under most of these state restrictions. Meanwhile, prepared cookies and other dessert foods are completely banned, even though they might have similar or even less sugar than some oatmeal packets or cereals. Do you see the problem here? The rules are incredibly vague and arbitrary. They're based more on cultural perceptions of what foods are supposed to be than on actual nutritional content. And that creates confusion and inconsistency. Here are more examples of gray areas. What about granola bars? Some are basically candy bars dressed up as healthy snacks. Are those banned? What about yogurt with added sugar and candy pieces mixed in? What about frozen desserts versus frozen fruit bars? What about baked goods from the bakery section versus packaged cookies from the cookie aisle? What about protein bars that are high in sugar? What about pre-made smoothies that contain fruit but also added sweeteners? Nobody has clear answers to these questions, and that's going to create massive problems. And here's the biggest problem of all. There's no real accurate way of policing this. How are they going to enforce these rules at the checkout counter? That's the million-dollar question. So when you go to the checkout counter, after spending all that time in the grocery store, picking out items, carefully selecting what you need, staying within your budget, that's when you're going to find out whether something is allowed or not. Not while you're shopping, not when you're selecting items. At checkout, after you've already spent time and energy gathering everything. And it's going to come down to the discretion of the cashier. Think about that for a second. Your ability to purchase food is going to depend on an individual cashier's interpretation of vague rules that probably weren't explained to them very clearly either. You might have a cashier who doesn't care and just wants to ring up groceries and go home. They're overworked, underpaid, dealing with difficult customers all day. They might let everything through without questioning it because they don't want the hassle of arguing with customers about what's allowed. Or you might have a cashier who wants to police everything and deny items left and right, either because they're following what they think the rules are or because they have personal opinions about what people should or shouldn't buy with SNAP benefits. It's going to be a massive divide where some people are getting approved for the same items that other people are getting denied for. The experience is going to be completely inconsistent even within the same store, depending on which cashier you get. That's not how policy should work. That's not fair to beneficiaries who deserve consistent treatment. And here's another thing. It's not like you ring up an item and the computer automatically rejects it because the UPC code flags it as restricted with EBT. That would actually be a better system. At least then it would be consistent. But no, that's not how this works. It's going to be up to individual cashiers to decide, and they're probably just as confused as you are about what's actually banned. Some stores might try to implement their own systems to flag certain items, but there's no standardized national or even state-level system in place. Different grocery chains are going to handle this differently. Some might train their cashiers extensively. Others might not train them at all. It's going to be chaos, at least initially. So who is this going to impact the most? Let's talk about the specific groups of people who are going to feel the effects of these restrictions most severely. If you're in one of the 5 states I mentioned, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, West Virginia, you're affected right now today. About 20 million SNAP beneficiaries nationwide are going to see these restrictions roll out in 2026 across all 18 waiver states combined. Families with kids who rely on SNAP to stretch their grocery budget are going to feel this significantly. Kids like certain snacks and drinks. That's just reality. If your kids like certain snacks or drinks that fall into these restricted categories, juice boxes, fruit snacks that have added sugar, sweetened cereals, you're going to have to find alternatives. And those alternatives might be more expensive or less appealing to your kids, which creates additional stress. Single adults trying to make your benefits last all month, this is going to eliminate options that might have been affordable ways to get calories. Sometimes sugary items are cheap sources of calories and energy when you're stretching a limited food budget. This restriction might force you to spend more on other items or go hungry at the end of the month. Elderly SNAP recipients who maybe have specific preferences or dietary routines who've been buying the same items for years, you might find that some of your regular items are suddenly off limits. Change is harder when you're older and when you're on a fixed income. Having to completely rethink your grocery shopping at 75 or 80 years old because of new restrictions is stressful. People with disabilities who might rely on convenient prepackaged items because they're easier to prepare, you might find that some of those convenient options are now restricted, forcing you to prepare more meals from scratch, which might be difficult depending on your disability. Anyone in all 18 waiver states, even if your restrictions haven't kicked in yet, you need to start preparing now because they're coming within the next few months. Don't wait until they're implemented. Start thinking now about what you typically buy and what might be affected. Here's another scary part that you need to know about, and this is important because it affects where you can shop. Retailers who violate these rules, stores that allow people to purchase restricted items with EBT benefits, may see a suspension of their ability to accept EBT payments for anywhere between 6 months and 24 months. That's a massive penalty for stores. So grocery stores could actually be punished by losing the ability to accept EBT for an extended period if they don't comply with the rules. For small grocery stores in low-income neighborhoods, losing the ability to accept EBT for 6 to 24 months could put them out of business. A huge percentage of their customer base might rely on SNAP benefits. This creates a strong incentive for stores to be overly cautious to deny items when in doubt rather than risk a violation. But here's the problem. It's kind of hard to comply with rules when we don't have a clear set of rules outlined. Does that make sense? It's like saying follow the rules, but not telling anyone exactly what the rules are. How do you define a sugary dessert food? To some people, cereal might be a dessert food if they eat it at night as a snack. To others, it's a morning staple, a breakfast necessity. This lack of clarity is going to create problems for both beneficiaries and stores. Stores are in an impossible position. They're being told to enforce restrictions with unclear guidelines and facing severe penalties if they get it wrong. Cashiers are going to be put in uncomfortable positions of having to tell people they can't buy certain items without clear reasons why. And beneficiaries are going to be confused and frustrated about arbitrary-seeming denials. I'm going to be honest with you. I predict this is going to be chaotic, at least for the first few weeks or months of this rollout. Nobody really knows where the gray area is as far as what's allowed and what's disallowed. State SNAP offices probably don't have complete clarity yet. Store managers don't know. Cashiers definitely don't know either. It's basically a guessing game right now. These first 5 states, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia, are unfortunately going to be the guinea pigs. They're implementing this right now today. And they're going to encounter all the major compliance issues first. They're going to discover all the problems with these vague rules. They're going to experience the confusion and the conflicts at checkout counters. They're going to be the testing ground for whether this policy can actually work in practice. But here's the silver lining, if there is one. When the other 13 states implement their restrictions in February, April, June, and beyond, they might learn from the problems these first 5 states experience and maybe, hopefully, have a better system in place. Maybe they'll have clearer guidelines. Maybe they'll have better training for store employees. Maybe they'll have developed lists of specific banned products. Maybe the technology will have improved to make enforcement more consistent. But for Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia starting today, I think it's going to be a mess, at least initially. If you're in one of these 5 states, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment down below and let me know your experience when you go to the grocery store. If you try to buy something that might be restricted, what happens? Does the cashier enforce it? Do they care? Do they even know about the new restrictions? Does it go through without issue? Are certain stores more strict than others? I really want to hear your real-world experience because I think we're all trying to figure this out together. Your experience might help other people in your state or in other states that are implementing these restrictions soon. We can learn from each other about what to expect and how to navigate this. So, what do you actually need to do? Here are your action steps. These are concrete things you can do right now to prepare and protect yourself. Step 1, if you're in one of the 5 states implementing this right now or any of the 18 waiver states, contact your local SNAP office and ask for a clear list of what's restricted. Don't assume, call them or visit their website. Ask them specifically, what items are banned in our state? Is there a list of products or categories I should avoid? Do you have guidelines I can look at before I go shopping? Get this information in writing if possible. Some states might have published lists on their SNAP websites. Print those out or save them on your phone so you can reference them while shopping. Step 2. Before your next grocery trip, look at what you normally buy. Go through your typical grocery list. Read the labels of items you regularly purchase. If something is high in sugar or is a prepared dessert or sugary drink, consider that it might be flagged at checkout. Look at the sugar content on nutrition labels. If something has a lot of added sugars and could be considered a dessert or candy-like item, it might be restricted. Step 3, have a backup plan. If you get to the checkout counter and items are denied, you need to know what you're going to do. Can you remove those items and still have enough groceries? Do you have other options you can substitute? Don't let it catch you completely off guard. Maybe keep a mental list of acceptable substitutes for items that might be denied. Step 4, be patient with cashiers. They're probably just as confused as you are about what's banned and what's not. They didn't make these rules. They're just trying to do their jobs. If something gets denied and you don't understand why, ask politely for clarification. Don't get angry at the cashier. They're not your enemy here. Ask if they can explain what makes that item restricted. Ask if there's a manager who can provide more information. Step 5, know your rights. If you believe something was wrongly denied, you can file a complaint with your state SNAP office. Keep receipts and document what happened. Write down the date, time, store location, what items were denied, and what reason was given, if any. Take photos of items if necessary. You have the right to appeal decisions that you believe are incorrect. Step 6, look for alternatives. If certain convenience items are now banned, look for whole ingredients you can use instead. Yes, it's more work. Yes, it's less convenient. But it might be the only option for a while until these policies get clarified or potentially changed. Instead of buying sweetened drinks, buy fruit and make your own drinks. Instead of cookies, buy ingredients to bake your own if you have time and ability. Look, I know this is frustrating. I know it feels like just another thing, making it harder to get by, another obstacle in a life that already has too many obstacles. And honestly, a lot of people are going to see this as government overreach, politicians telling you what you can and can't eat with your benefits, treating you like you can't make your own decisions. Other people might think this is a good policy change to encourage healthier eating habits and reduce diet-related health problems. I'm not here to say whether it's good or bad. That's for you to decide. I'm not here to push a political position on this. I'm just here to make sure you're informed and prepared so you don't get caught off guard at the grocery store. What I will say is this. The lack of clear guidelines and the inconsistency across states is going to create real problems for real people just trying to buy groceries, and that's not okay. Beneficiaries deserve clear rules that make sense. You deserve to know exactly what you can and can't buy before you get to the checkout counter. Retailers deserve clear guidelines so they can properly train their employees and avoid penalties. And cashiers shouldn't have to be put in the position of making judgment calls about what people can buy. Hopefully, as this rolls out, these issues will get addressed and we'll see more clarity. Hopefully, states will publish detailed lists of banned items. Hopefully, stores will develop better systems for identifying restricted products. Hopefully, the confusion will be temporary, but for now, we're all kind of figuring this out together. So please stay informed. Pay attention to what's happening in your state. Check your state SNAP website regularly for updates. Read labels carefully before you shop. Plan ahead and have backup options. And don't be afraid to ask questions at your SNAP office or at the store. If something doesn't make sense, ask for clarification. You have the right to understand the rules that affect your ability to feed yourself and your family. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with anyone you know who uses food stamps, especially if they're in one of those 5 states where this is starting today. People need to know about this before they go shopping and get surprised at checkout. Leave a comment and let me know how you're doing. whether this affects you, what concerns you have, or if you have questions. I read every comment, and I try to respond to as many as I can. Your feedback helps me know what content to create next and what questions people have that need answering. I've also got other videos on this channel about stretching your SNAP benefits, finding additional food assistance programs, and making the most of your grocery budget on a limited income. I'll put some links in the description if you want to check those out. Remember, you're not alone in this. We're all trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and changes like this make it harder. But you're doing the best you can with what you have, and that takes strength and resilience. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. It's going to be a wild year, but I'll be here for you every step of the way, keeping you updated on everything that's happening with SNAP benefits and all government assistance programs